Hello, great to be with you. Hey from Sweden. My name's Daniel Martin. I should say välkommen to the Australian Seniors Computer Clubs Association conference for 2015. It's currently 4 p.m. here in Sweden. It's a little gloomy outside, pitch black in fact, so it's great to be broadcasting to a sunnier place. I miss Australia a lot, but I'm doing my Master of Architecture here, and what a fantastic place it is to study. I've been walking the Scandinavian landscapes and seeing some wonderful architecture, so it's really been sublime. I've had an association with the Walpole Community Resource Centre and Jenny Wilcox, the great Jenny Wilcox, for the last 5 years, and it's been great to run some workshops in the community, particularly around Apple products, from the iPhone to the Mac to the iPad, particularly the iPad, and really seeing participants, many over the age of 55, really start to strip away the inhibitions of technology that were maybe created in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, because of this new software which is designed so much around the human and the human interaction with that software, and really start to enable an entire new world of either expression or communication or engagement that wasn't before possible. It's been really rewarding to see this. So today I'm going to look at Apple Photos. It's just gained sort of an iCloud functionality this year, which really makes it really well integrated across all of Apple's platforms. So it's a great taste for anyone who doesn't know a lot about Apple and wants to see some of what Apple can offer. And it's also great if you have an iPhone and you're wondering, well, how do I make the most of all these great photos I've been taking? So we should get started. This is the desktop here. So here we have the Mac. Now, Apple is really a company of many platforms. The Mac is 30 years old now, and it was the first system to use the mouse, the GUI, the graphical user interface, and really developing that over the last 30 years. And now it's a great, vital platform for professionals, consumers alike. And what we have is new platforms, these touch platforms. Here I have my iPhone mirrored and the iPad mirrored, and what you can see is between the Mac and the iPhone and the iPad, and here we have the watch, and we can go to the home screen on the watch and we can look at the applications there. What we have is really a consistency of design and iconography, which is creating a very consistent approach across all of Apple's systems, and an integrated approach across all of Apple's systems. And this means really that you can be at home working professionally on your Mac, and then you can move to your iPhone when you're out and about, and your iPad on the coffee table, and the watch when you're anywhere. And you can have a consistency of the way you're interacting with your content. Now, Apple's solution to all of this has been the cloud. The cloud is a place where if the cloud is true and the cloud is consistent and the cloud is where your information is, it can be the same on all your devices. It's like a universal synchronizer, if you're not familiar with the concept. And so if we launch Apple Photos, we can really start to see this full screen. And what we can see is really a scaling of content. If we zoom right out here, we can see the years. This is every photo in my library. Then if we click in, we can see these collections. And then we can even click in further and see these moments. And this, I haven't arranged them like this. It's the system which has intelligently looked at the metadata of the photographs. That is the geolocation, the latitude and longitude of every photograph, and the timestamp of the photograph, to put them in this order without me doing anything, which is a great, I think, very powerful way of looking at your photographs. So that means I can type in here Perth, and it'll bring up all the photographs in Perth. I can type Perth, August. It brings up the photographs taken in Perth in August. I can even type William Street, and it'll bring up the photographs taken in William Street. So this is a very powerful way of finding photographs. Now, talking of the consistency between the platforms, if we launch Photos on both the iPhone and the iPad here, what we can see is that this system is identical on these devices. On the iPhone, we can zoom right out to the years. Some of you will be familiar with this, and we can thumb in then to the collections and then the moments. And the same thing here on the iPad. It's identical. The systems are the same. And what this means is that you don't have to think about where your photographs are, because they're all stored in the cloud. Now, the best way of really illustrating the cloud is to go straight to iCloud.com. I rarely use this because it's on all my devices, but if you ever need to, you can go to iCloud.com, and you can find here all of your applications, essentially, which sit in the cloud. Now, if the truth is on the cloud, and the cloud is where the data that you have is stored. All your devices can be the same. So we go into photos here on the cloud, and what we can see is a very similar system here. We can select photographs. If ever we don't have our devices with us, we can download them, we can upload them, but really this is just a way of seeing where all your photographs are and illustrating what the cloud is about. So why should we have the cloud? There's a lot of benefits that flow from having the cloud, actually. One of them is that it's a backup. Apple have a rigorous backup system with their cloud, but it's a backup for you. It's sitting on your devices, it's sitting on your Mac, but then it's there in the cloud. But also, you can save a lot of space. I have such a huge photo library, it wouldn't fit on my phone. Unless I got maybe a 128 gigabyte phone, which I don't. But I can fit these earlier photographs in there as thumbnails. And then when I want them, if I want them, I can search for Perth or search for William Street. Up comes the thumbnail of that photograph, and I can just download the full resolution version if I need it. So you also save space on the devices you're using when you have these cloud systems. So if we go back to the Mac here, so we can take this arrangement of photographs around geolocation even further. If we scroll through our moments here, we can really click on the heading of any one of these moments to see the photographs arranged on a map. So here's one in the west of Norway, near Bergen, and I can scroll in here to the city, and I can get an increasingly detailed view of the places where I took my photographs. So if you remember you took a great photograph from the top of the hill, this might be a way of finding it. And you can go to that photograph, zoom in, and come back out to the view of the moments, the collections, and the years. This can be used in even more interesting ways when you look at the years and you click on the years. There's some on the west and the east coast of Australia earlier this year, but here's a bunch from my travels in the last few months, and you can see there's some in Finland, there's some around Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and we can zoom in here, see a bunch around the Öresund, and this is just a really powerful way of keeping your memories of a travel experience in relationship to place, as much as it is a way of sort of finding a photograph you can't quite remember when or exactly the name or the Swedish character in the spelling of the geolocation. So it's quite interesting here. We can look at the ways of appreciating these photographs, but first was just to point out really the idea of the iPhone as being the most popular camera in the world now. And I think that's really come quite gradually, actually. Once upon a time, we were all carrying around cameras and camcorders, and now that's far less common because smartphones are taking such excellent photographs. So to really illustrate the development of this, here's a photograph taken in 2008, I think on an iPhone 3G. The resolution is only a number of sort of a few megapixels. So we've really, and in a low light photograph, with, it's amazing quite how far we've come. Here we have an iPhone 6 in basically no light. Here we have the color and the resolution of an outdoor photograph on the iPhone 6, another here. So it's great to see how these photographs have come such a long way, and how this is definitely printable, and I'll come to that in a second. And there's some other really novel ways of using the camera. This is the slow motion video feature Apple brought in a few years ago. Yeah, people have loved to use this for sports and things. Here we have the panorama. That's been around for a while, and you realize what a stunningly high resolution image that an iPhone panorama is actually able to capture, because it just compiles megapixels upon megapixels. I think this would be a 30 megapixel image. And another here in low light on the roof of the Opera House in Oslo. So if we go to projects, we can really start to see some ways that Apple is able to, I guess, lever the enjoyment of these photographs in the print media. So we can create prints here. And Apple will just ship them to you. They print them somewhere in the east coast of Australia. You can add a calendar, and they can print that as well. So continue, 12-month calendar. I might choose big picture. I need to add some photos from my library. I have some saved in my favorites from Bergen, so I can go through and select those. Like this. Add. And then I can just autofill these into the calendar, and I can give the calendar a title, such as Bergen, and I can go back to my global view here, and you can move around some of these photographs and scale them as you wish. This one here might look a bit nicer further up. This one here I can also scale, I think. And then when you're finished with the calendar, you can just press buy, and Apple will send you a physical calendar. So I think these are great ways of actually experiencing the photographs on the wall or in a physical form. You can create books, like coffee table style books. You can create cards for birthdays and Christmas. Now you can also just create slideshows out of these. So I could create a Bergen slideshow here, new slideshow. It's automatically taken these images, and I can adjust the transitions and the effects and the music behind these slideshows. So I could just choose a very simple origami. It's always very nice. If I press play, these are all iPhone photos. So for anyone that's used a Mac in the past, it's really worth mentioning that this Apple Photos application is really the successor to the iPhoto system. So if you had an iPhoto library in the past, you can import it here into the Apple Photos. It migrates automatically. And then you really can use the albums feature as well, because what were your events actually emerge in this album section. So you don't have to use this automated selection of years, collections and moments. You can select here a large number of photographs just by dragging over them, and you might create an album out of those. So if you add to an album, you might call that album Schopenhauer. Looks good, let's call it that. Here we go. And then under albums, you can see it's created this new album here, and we can look at these photographs in a different way. You can create folders with many albums inside it, and so there's automated ways of looking at it as we've looked at, but then there's also, you can curate your own albums as you'd expect. The other really great way is using this favorites feature. So any photograph you find in your photos section has this little love heart over the top here, and if you click on that, it just moves straight into your favorites. And this is a really handy way of finding your favorite photographs. There are some other sort of automated albums here. One is the panoramas, so you can scroll through a number of panoramas that you've taken over the years, and you can look at those. Here's a great one of the Swan River in Perth, and again the resolution of these is pretty cool. You can go back out and look at one which is a curation of videos, curation of slow motion, of time-lapse photographs. There's an entire faces feature here which I won't show today, but we can label faces of our family and our friends, and it can automatically look through your albums and your collections for faces and start to suggest these categories. So there's really many ways you can start to use your photographs through this software. What I'll show now is just the basis here on the iPhone of taking a photograph. Here we have our years, and as I was saying, many of these features sit here. Those same photographs are all synchronized across. There's the album I just created on the Mac that's appeared here on the iPhone through iCloud. So if I create a photograph here with the camera application, here's a little Scandinavian still life with some knäckebröd and a beanie and a little bit of foliage. So I'll take that photo here, and then when we go to the Mac here, we can see that photo's come up through the iCloud. And if we bring up then the iPad, just mirror it to the Mac here, we can see that that photo too has appeared on the iPad. So you can start to get a sense of how the iCloud is working to keep all of these devices in synchronization. And this applies too for edits. So we can take this image here now on the Mac, come up and press edit, and then we can work with various filters. As I mentioned, it's dark outside, otherwise I'd take a photo of the autumn leaves, the late autumn leaves. We can add these different filters here, and we can start to use these very intelligent adjustments here from Apple, which are called light and color, and I think they work extremely well. All these things that we often use to adjust in photographs, exposure, highlights, shadows, etc., all move intelligently in order just to bring more light out in a photograph. And the same here works with saturation, so we can look at the color, the saturation, the contrast, and the cast. But then of course we can move these independently if we want some more finer grain adjustments. So this one might look, I don't know, maybe we should not black and white this one, maybe we should just wash it out a bit. If we really wash this one out, mainly for the purposes of showing the synchronization here of editing across devices, we can save that one. That will upload now to the cloud. But we can do this on any photograph, so we can go back here to a photograph I took last week. Colors are okay, they could be a little more true to life. It was very pink actually, this sunset. So we can come in here to the adjustments and maybe just adding a bit more warmth in that color just by bringing down the light or bringing up the color here. Could we bring up the saturation? That might work a little. Down the contrast, that's looking a little better. So now we can press done, and it'll save that photograph's edits to the cloud. Now it's worth mentioning too, it's not saving the entire photograph. So the iCloud thing has been problematic, particularly in places like regional Australia where download limits are very, very low. We really need to catch up to be able to make full use of this technology, because in cities it's very unfair. Look, with the iCloud, if you're just taking a normal amount of photos every month, you're not talking about a very large upload. The main upload will be initially, if you want to get some sort of historical library onto the cloud, that upload can be a very large upload. So you can find either a place to do it. Apple stores all have free Wi-Fi and Ethernet connections, which are very fast. They can often help you to upload large collections of photographs. But yes, once you've done that initial upload, the data drain isn't high, especially when you consider just then I've saved some of these edits. It hasn't actually saved anything to do with the photograph's data. It's just saved the editing data. So here on the iPhone, we can go into the photographs, and we can see that it's updated there the edit for that photograph. It's washed out that image, and if we scroll up, we can see too here that it's sort of changed the color balance of this photograph here. So you can see the edits and the new photographs that you take on the iPhone, as we did before, they all synchronize with the iCloud fairly quickly, and everything is kept in synchronization. So it's hard to finish up today without having a little bit more of a look on the Apple Watch. So you raise my wrist here, and here's the clock face. And then we go from there to the home screen. We can see the photos icon here. Now we can see the photos arrayed in a similar sort of way. We can zoom in and out with the crown on the side here and look at all the different photographs we've taken. These all synchronize locally with Bluetooth to the phone. And then here is that recent photo and the edit we did today. So there's no more time to go into that, except to say it will become, I think, a very vital platform as Apple continues to develop it. Maybe we'll be talking on our wrists one day instead of having phones in our pockets. I'm not sure. Back to the Mac. Here is the final tab I'll show you is this shared tab, because it just works so well in my family. We have grandmothers communicating with grandchildren and everyone in between. It's a really nice way of sharing photographs, but it's like Facebook. You can like and comment, but it's very local. So here's the shared. Here's a photograph I shared this morning, and some family, uncles, cousins have already commented here. I'll show you one final thing about this sharing. So we can select some photos here. Let's choose some of these landscapes. Landscapes here. And we can go share on iCloud photo sharing. We can create a new shared album. We'll call it Landscapes of Bergen. Create. Now when we go to our shared albums, and then go up to this sharing settings up the top here, and create a public website out of that. Now, it's not yet possible to password protect this, unfortunately, so I'm just sharing landscapes for now. But we can write to Apple and they might put a password in there in the future. So if we copy this public link, we can come across to the web browser here and paste it in. And what we've just done is shared these into a web browser with that link that we can now message to people or put in an email. So I think this is a really great way to share photographs as well. Without like Dropbox style downloading, we can actually view them on a web page. Although I think Dropbox also has that function now too, but we can do it straight from iCloud here, which I think is really neat. So I think that's about all I've got time for today. Hopefully you've got something out of this sort of insight into Apple integration in one sort of software, piece of software. Apple are doing this across a whole range of things, from their maps to their Siri and their voice recognition, right the way across their music and their entertainment and books and movies, into their functional and their productivity applications for spreadsheets and things. It's about integrating the software and the backing it up with some cloud services, so it all really works seamlessly. Which is just working, I think, really well. The only other thing I'll mention is that I use Lightroom a lot as well. This is the Lightroom software from Adobe, actually. I use this software a lot. It's a very professional focused photography application. This is where all my photos from my camera go, where I can organize and where I can back them up onto multiple external hard drives. I can work with RAW files. It integrates very well with Photoshop. So the Apple Photos is definitely more consumer oriented, but it works so well for the iPhone photos. So I use two software platforms for photos, but it's just worth mentioning at the end. So anyway, Hejdå from Sweden. Have an absolutely fantastic conference. It's been great talking with you today, and I hope you've got something out of it. So thank you again.